Okay, let's get started then. First of all, welcome everyone. I'm so glad to see everyone here. This is honestly like really exciting because, I mean, how often do I get the chance to teach so many people from so many different places about something I love a lot? So right now we're pretty limited on time, so we can't do individual introductions, unfortunately. So I'm just gonna really quickly introduce myself. So my name is Justin. I go to Palo Alto High School, which is a public high school in Silicon Valley in California. And I've been interacting with philosophy since about 3 or 4 years ago. I've taken multiple philosophy courses just to give some background. I've written several essays, several of which have actually won awards. And I'm also the captain of my school's debate team, as well as the ethics bowl team. And last summer, I founded the summer philosophy program, which is actually very similar to what we're doing now, except it was in person and it was only for students that were in Silicon Valley. And that went very well. So I'm very curious as to see how the very similar curriculum is going to work with you guys. To give some background on this course curriculum was designed with middle and high schoolers in mind. But if you're a bit younger or a bit older than that, it should still be fine. It was developed with help from a professor from Texas A&M University. And it's also inspired a lot from the college courses that I took from philosophy. So before we start, does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. Also, does anyone need Chinese translations of the PowerPoint slides that I'm about to use? If anyone does, you can tell me in the chat and I'll send the Chinese PPT to you. Okay, well, if at any point in this presentation, there's something that you want me to slow down on or explain more, or you need translations for, please tell me, because I want to make sure that everyone gets understands what I'm trying to teach. So let me share screen, one sec. Okay, can everyone see the screen? All right, great. Hold on, let me just change something. Okay, yeah, so today's meeting is going to be simply about an introduction to philosophy. And this is, I'm assuming that most of you don't have prior experience with philosophy. So the stuff that we're going to do today is a bit more basic so that we can build up to the more advanced stuff in future meetings. In case any of you have had experience with philosophy, then, well, it's going to be a bit basic today, but it'll get more interesting in later weeks. So before we get started into the lecture portion, let's actually start with a story. Can everyone see the story? Okay, I'll just read it too, I guess. So imagine that you're walking on the street when you see a crime. A man has robbed a bank, but instead of keeping the money for himself, he donates it to the poor. You know who committed the crime. And if you go to the police with the information, the money will be returned to the bank. But if you don't go to the police, you're going to be breaking the law. So what would you do? This is kind of like a warm up. And if anyone has a response, you can just unmute yourself. Or you can type it in the chat.
I think I learned a bit of ethics for like a day,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember that like when you kind of have these situations, there's different types of values you have to hold. So like the answer really just depends on what your values are, right? I'm not sure.
Yeah, definitely. My hope for this exercise was to tease out what kind of values you guys have and how you apply that to these situations. So what would you think personally? Oh, someone can't hear anything? Let's see. Okay, so Kevin said you could tell the police that they did it for the greater good. Let's see. Okay, so Kevin, I assume that you want to tell the police that they did it for the greater good in order to make sure that they don't like receive a lot of punishment. So what would your goal be to tell the police in the first place? Why don't you just not tell the police? And once again, for people who are just coming in, we're doing this scenario. And if you have an answer to this, please feel free to unmute yourself.
I think one is more from like the legal kind of terms. So then if you go to the police, you're the type of person who thinks it's moral to always follow the rule. But if you don't tell them, I think you probably think that this person shouldn't be in trouble because they help the lesser. So it's kind of like you think that helping the poor is like more moral than being the right one and going to the police and getting this person caught.
Okay, so which option would you choose?
Personally, I would choose to not tell because like it wouldn't really it wouldn't really it wouldn't really like do help you really if you go to the police anyways. I mean, I guess like you're adhering to your like moral code, but otherwise I think you just got this person busted and you like didn't, and these poor people probably got their money
Okay,
like
I see.
returned.
Um, okay, so I see someone is raising their hand, but I don't know your name, so you can just talk.
Um, Wait, was it me? 'Cause I was
Yeah, Anthony. Yeah, you.
so I I wouldn't tell because the whole point of like police are to like make sure that like bad stuff aren't happening and stuff. And so if someone's doing like good stuff, then uh I would just feel like that because they're like helping poor people out, they're doing good stuff, and so like you shouldn't tell the police because if you tell the police, then what ends up happening is that the poor people stay poor.
Okay,
And
I see.
yeah,
So, from what I understand, are you essentially saying that when we talk about the law, we should look at the spirit of the law rather than like the actual law itself?
I guess.
Okay. So, who disagrees with that? I see that
I
someone's
think
username called
I
Fedora. You
disagree.
disagree with that? Okay, Max, what's your reasoning? What's your like response to that?
Yeah, I think like most of us misunderstood what a bank is. Like banks are for people like put their money into the banks. It's not just necessarily it's not like it's only the rich who put money into the banks, right?
Mhm.
Like there are the poor, the middle class who also put their money into a bank, right? So if somebody robs the bank, it actually puts out like other people's savings. For example, if I put my savings into this bank and this bank got robbed, so I don't have any money left, right? And the person gave the money out to the police, give it out to the poor, but like they are, you know, they are the government is actually helping the poor by having means tested programs right now.
Mhm.
So basically, when you're robbing a bank, you're actually taking others' savings away and giving it to the poor, might, which in my opinion doesn't have that much of an impact because, you know, why is the poor poor? Like most of the reason is they're not doing like they're not doing the work properly, right? And they got fired and stuff. So like giving them money isn't a solution. It might let them live well for a few weeks and stuff. So yeah, I don't think the impact is that great.
Okay, I see. Yeah, Nicholas, I see your comment, but let me just first comment on this. So, would it change your response if I said that the majority of means-tested programs don't actually help a lot in terms of helping the poor. So what if we're considering a poor person who has done everything that they can reasonably to try to become rich, but they just can't because there's too many structural disadvantages? Would that change your answer?
Okay, so let me just analyze what you just said. Okay,
Okay,
you
I can give
mean
you some time. Yeah.
a person with a high IQ, but he or she is living in a poor family, right?
Mhm.
Okay, there are two scenarios here. The first scenario is these kind of person doesn't even get the money, like they're not even in this picture. And the second scenario is like when you rob a bank, there isn't actually that much money, maybe $1,000 or so, but that doesn't changes anything, right? Even for example, even like tuition fees for college, they cost about $10,000 a year, right?
Okay, well, what if we assume that even if it's not a huge amount of difference, this money is still going to be used, it's still more valuable for the poor people than for the rich people that we pretend that the money is being stolen from. And by the way, when I ask this, anyone can respond, not just you. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. But I think like the government, they're having means tested programs right now. They're giving out scholarships and stuff. Like if you're really that good, like even poor people get scholarships right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you're so talented, people must notice, right?
Okay, I see your reasoning.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me read the chat. So Richard says depends on the city. Okay, I see. So Richard, you're still making your judgment based on like how much it would help to tell the police, right? You're not making your judgment based on whether or not it's illegal. Okay. Wait, no, as in, you can unmute yourself if you want to talk in the chat. Depends on the situation. Okay. I see. Um, okay, so I don't want to spend too much time on this question because there's a lot of stuff later, but does anyone have any other thoughts on this that they'd like to share? Okay, so essentially what I was trying to get out of this exercise is, or sorry, Francis typed something. I'll wait until the man gives all the money out and then report to the police. Okay, so what's your rationale behind that? Are you trying to like do the most good? If so, why would you still report to the police? Are you trying to like do the most good within the bounds of the law, or? Okay, I see. So yeah, the point of this exercise was to show that there's a lot of different criteria by which we can evaluate moral situations. And that's really what ethics is about. And we'll talk about ethics, how it relates to philosophy later. For example, some people said that it's always good to follow the law no matter what. And there's different reasons why this might be good. For example, if you break the law, this could lead to other violations in other areas that would be worse, or things like that. Another possible criteria would be do the most good. And then there's also some in the middle, such as do the most good while not breaking the law. Hold on, there's more stuff going on in chat. Depends on how much money, okay. Well, Max, that we would assume that the poor would be able to use the money in a reasonably good way. Okay, yeah, Richard, the law, that's true, but there are